Right. God doesn't obviously he obviously doesn't encourage promiscuity, and he doesn't permit promiscuity either. But it just goes to show his reasonableness. And just to give you a quick recap on why this was the case was because, like in Bible times, let's say a woman married a man, right? And she was a virgin, and the man went to war, and he died. Now, and let's say the woman has a lot of children, or maybe she doesn't have any children, but she's not a virgin. Two things would happen to her, since at that time society was based on men, and if you weren't a woman living in your father's house, you would have to fend for yourself. If you weren't a woman with living brothers, or you weren't anywhere close to your brothers, you would have to fend for yourself. If you were a woman who was a widow, you would have to fend for yourself, and that would be multiplied worse by if you had children, right? So, and also at that time too, men would take women as captives from different lands. This would happen in Mosaic times. Now these women, if a man let's say slept with her, this was in the Old Testament. If a man slept with her and afterwards he took no interest in her, she would God permitted a certificate of divorce. So she would be left to fend for herself. Now these women, all these classes of women that I just mentioned to you, how are they going to make a living? You know what I mean? And this is why God permitted two things. He permitted concubinage and he permitted prostitution. So for the concubinage, this one was because remember at that time everybody wanted a virgin. Right? So the men, they were like, wait, if you ain't a virgin, well, I'm not gonna marry you, but I definitely do want you. So what I'm gonna do is you're gonna be my concubine. That's why I made videos that sex before marriage is nowhere, like sex before marriage being a sin is nowhere in the Bible. I made videos on that. So if this woman becomes a concubine, then this is basically a woman who is with a man who is not her husband, but lives with him, can bear his children, and is just as much of a wife, but she's not a wife. So legally, she has no inheritance in his share, in his lot, whatever he has as a man. But it's convenient for her because she won't have to fend for herself. She's part of a family. She's protected. And then for the women who nobody wanted, because she wasn't a virgin, nobody wanted to make her a concubine, then how would they make a living? So this is why God permitted prostitution. And the classical example were the two prostitutes who came before Solomon. And these two women, people forget. You see, maybe you probably never even thought about this until I'm telling you now. So these two prostitutes, people forget, Christians forget. Hold up. How were these two prostitutes living in Israel committing prostitution and not being stoned to death? But yet Solomon instead, he's like, oh, this woman is the mother. This prostitute, this child should go to this prostitute, right? And then after that, what after the case, what happened? They went right back to their prostitution. Isn't that a sin? Like in Mosaic times, there are death penalties when you disobey God's commandments. So obviously there was no stipulation against prostitution. People don't think about all these things, right? So like you said, yeah, society would be better if prostitution was legalized, but not necessarily. It depends. There's a gray area. But the point is, when people say that it's a sin and this is this and that, well, no, the God leaves room for these things because He understands that one, the man's nature, how He made man, right? He didn't make man to have multiple sperms in like every second just to be with one woman. It makes no sense, and everybody understands this. Even if they want to act like they don't understand it, no, you're not dumb. You understand that a man, biologically, right? We don't want to. We're not talking about conscientiously or whatever or spiritually. No, no. We're talking about biologically. A man was designed for multiple women. So if God is designing a man biologically to function biologically through their brain chemistry, through their hormonal levels, when the man is optimally healthy, right? Because if they have a low libido, they ain't healthy. So if they have a low libido and only want one woman who they never even sleep with, well, that's not really a man. He has a low libido. A healthy, potent man, that's why Samson slept with prostitutes. A healthy, potent man who is healthy, he's biologically created by his God to be with multiple women. And this is why God told David that if the women I gave you were not enough, all you had to do was ask me and I would have given you more. Why did you have to go and take Bathsheba, another man's wife? Right? So the logic in that is obviously God is permitting these things. You know, so yeah, but today's society, if a woman, if today prostitution being permitted will be, I mean, there's a gray area because you have so many diseases now. You know what I mean? And if you're gonna do an act that will cause death, I'm not so sure that God will permit that today. You know, but God is permitting in the nation of Israel under Mosaic laws, under Mosaic conditions and systems. Right? We ain't gonna stone an adulterer. We're not gonna cut off the hand of a woman whose hands touches the genitalia of a man. Just now, someone sent a reply to I was making a different video. I don't know. I feel like I should make this one about this topic because I wanted to stay on topic on Alpha and Omega, Christ being Michael, and all these things. But someone watched the video I made on prostitution, and they had a question, and I'm trying to remember the question. They said they can't imagine how. Now, if you want to know my argument for this, you'll have to go and watch that video. Okay, I can't expound on that. I only got 39 minutes here to talk, so I gotta cut it short. He said he can't imagine how God would allow a man to go and sleep with a woman. Another man comes and sleep with a woman. Another man comes and sleep with the same woman. Another man comes and sleep, right? These men are going to sleep with the same woman or whatever. However, prostitution. A man goes and sleeps. He likes this prostitute. He sleeps with her, right? How can God permit that? And how he can't see how that can't be considered, how that isn't considered as a sin. What about all the, he can't fathom how God will permit a man to go and sleep with a prostitute, and if the prostitute gets pregnant with his child, how is that okay? He knows God's law is perfect. He knows that there's no unrighteousness in God. So how can that not be considered a sin? Well, again, if you study the law in detail and you scrutinize it, you will see that prostitution is permitted. Now, what I mean by permitted is that he doesn't say you must not do it, and he doesn't say you should do it. And you would say, he said that fathers should not prostitute their daughters so that the land does not become wicked. And you would also say, he said that if the daughter of a priest is a prostitute, she should be burned. If a woman is betrothed and is found out to not be a virgin, she should be killed by the community for committing prostitution in her father's house. You have to understand that all of these laws, there are loopholes in it. What do I mean by that? Daughter of a priest. Not every woman is going to be a daughter of a priest. Okay, so that's out of the picture, right? If a woman is being betrothed and she is found out to not be a virgin, she committed prostitution in her father's house. Okay, let's keep that in the pocket. You must not prostitute your daughters so that the land of Israel does not fall into wickedness. Well, if a man is prostituting his daughter, you should understand how immoral that is. That's a wicked thing. God said in the Mosaic law, if a man, because polygamy was allowed, if a man has a woman, right, and the woman has a daughter from a previous relationship, well, that man, that's not his daughter. That's his woman, but the girl is not his daughter. God says a man cannot sleep with the mother and the daughter, for that is wickedness. Okay, so now you have the context of what wickedness is. Why is that wicked? Why would you sleep with the mother and the daughter? It's not right. He also says a man should not marry a woman and her sister, or a man should not take a woman as his own, along with her sister, as a rivalry. Just read the passage. Type it in Google and you'll find these things. Why? That's wicked. Why are you taking this? No, take a woman that has nothing to do with the woman you took. Don't take a relative of the woman. Don't take her daughter. Don't take her sister. Take someone else. Solomon, no. David's wives were not related to each other. One wasn't the mother of another or the daughter of another. That's wickedness. Why would you prostitute your daughter? It's wickedness. You understand that? In the time of Israel, okay, let's say you don't agree with me, but let's say for the sake of argument that you do agree with me, okay, and that God permits prostitution. If God is permitting prostitution and multiple men are sleeping with, not at the same time, I don't know how that went down, okay. Again, we're not saying this is, you guys, anyway, man, it's crazy how wrong you all are, but it would be hard for me to explain something that society is assuming was not permitted. But I have the courage to make these videos. But let's say it was permitted, okay? It was. The two women who came before Solomon were prostitutes. I'm not going to keep repeating myself in every single video about that. So let's say it's permitted, right? Which it is. Several men have slept with this woman. She got pregnant. How does any man know whose child it is? They don't know. So if they don't know, really, who is at fault? Is it not the woman who is permitting herself to be a prostitute? The woman is at fault. The man is not at fault for going to sleep with her because there's room in the law for that to happen. The woman is the one who is allowing herself to be prostituted. Okay? So why would God permit a man to sleep with a woman, and then if she gets pregnant, he wouldn't know if the child is his? Yeah, he wouldn't know if the child is his. So do you guys understand what I'm saying? Let me start it off with this. 6 minutes in and I'm saying, let me start it off with this. At the time of Israel, we know what type of society Israel was. It was a manly-based society. If you're a woman living in your father's house, you have no excuse to prostitute because you're living in your father's house. You're being taken care of. If there's a woman who doesn't have a father and who doesn't have brothers, how is she going to take care of herself? If a woman got married, she's no longer a virgin. She has 3 kids. Her husband went to war. You know, the Israelites fought wars. Her men, the men of Israel, a lot of them died, obviously. A lot of widows. Like we know about at the time of Elijah, there were a lot of widows. Okay? Now these widows, how are they going to make a living? No man is going to want her because she's not a virgin. If a man does want her, she's not going to become his wife. She's going to become a concubine. This is one of the reasons why God allowed concubinage. If no one wants to make her a wife and doesn't want to make her a concubine, how is she going to make a living? Her father's not around. Her brother is not around. Who's going to take care of her? Also, at the time of Israel, there were a lot of captives from different lands, women. You all might not know about these specific passages in the Old Testament because y'all don't delve into it like I do. I study all of Scripture. That's why I see all these things. You know, the more you know, the more you know. These women would come into Israel as captives. Okay, most of them were virgins. But if a man would sleep with her, God permitted a man to sleep with a woman. And if he wasn't interested in her, he could let her go. This is in the Old Testament. I can't explain every single thing. Okay. The point is that there were lots of women in Israel who were not virgins. What if a woman that was raped and she was innocent and the man is killed? She's no longer a virgin. Nobody wants her. There are lots of women in Israel who are single and have no means to take care of themselves. This is speculated as to why God permitted prostitution. We're not saying it's ideal. We're not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's ideal. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that it wasn't considered a sin. There was no prohibition against it. Is it a wicked act? You can pretty much argue, and if it's a legal case, you can say it is. But the fact that there are no prohibitions against it means there's leniency. And it also goes to show the reasonableness of God. And what do I mean by that? He knows how he has made humanity. He knows we are already, if angels could not resist to come down and sleep with the daughters of men, what do you think God expects of men who were made for that? If angels, okay? So God understands what he has made men to be like. We love women, okay? One woman typically isn't enough for most guys. I mean, everybody knows this. This isn't, we weren't born yesterday, okay? So God not putting a stipulation against it. And the only stipulation he says is she cannot be a temple prostitute, a Kadesh prostitute, a holy prostitute. Holy just means sanctified. Just know that. So we're not saying holy as in like set apart to God. Holy just means sanctified, set apart. It can be set apart to a demon. It can be set apart to God. It can be set apart to a husband, right? So a wife is holy to her husband because she's set apart to her husband. A prostitute, a holy prostitute, is a prostitute that is sanctified, set apart for an idol. God prohibited that type of prostitution. Why would he prohibit that and not prohibit all prostitution? Again, I make all these defenses so I don't want to get into that. But why did God permit prostitution? You have so many women who would not be able to take care of themselves otherwise. And you have to understand that you will say, well, why don't men just take these women and take care of them? Would you be able to take women if you are in a society where it's manly based society, where the man is a breadwinner, okay, and you have your family, are you gonna go and take other women who are in the street and bring to your house with their children and take care of them? No, you're not gonna do that. Why? Because you need money for that. So the woman has to fend for herself. Even God said that when you enter into the promised land, you will, without a shadow of a doubt, have poor people among you and needy people among you. Make sure you take care of them. But now, is it going to be easy to do that? You're gonna lack from your own needs, or you're gonna lack from your own provisions in order to take care of another. It is not as easy. You know, don't make it seem like it's going to be a utopia. It's not. That's why God said, if God is saying it, that means it's definitely going to happen. And he's saying this about men. Okay, so how much more for women who have no men in their lives? So a man, if he sees a woman that he's interested in, but she's not a virgin, he's not going to make her have a legal right to his inheritance. No, so she's going to become his concubine. Okay, and he's going to take care of her children if she comes with baggage. I shouldn't say that. If she comes with children, he's going to have to take care of that. Take care of them. I'm wilding. Forgive me. He's going to have to take care of them. But if he doesn't have the means and no one wants her, what is she going to do? So God permitted it. He didn't say do it. He didn't say you can't do it, because he's being reasonable. He knows that this is gonna boil down to these things. So he's not gonna make it any tougher for the woman by saying you can't do it. You understand? But then again, that's why God will say, take care of the fatherless, take care of the widows. This is the true religion. This is what he takes pleasure in. Job did these things. He took care of the fatherless. He took care of the widows. James talks about this. Taking care of the fatherless, taking care of the widows. But understand, in the real world, this isn't going to happen. So these women would prostitute themselves. Okay? So God is permitting it, not because he wants it to happen, not because it's a good thing, right? Not because it's ideal. There are consequences with it, but the law permits it to happen. You understand? And if the law permits it to happen, surely you're going to have men who will take advantage of that loophole. You know, and they're going to take advantage, which is why Solomon always talks about staying away from the adulterous woman. But then when it comes to the prostitute, he just says, be careful. because you will squander all your wealth on a prostitute. Why does he talk about squandering your wealth in a prostitute? So be careful, but yet stay far away from the adulterous woman, because that's poison. Can a man carry fire in his bosom and not get burned? Right? In the beginning, it's sweet, but at the end, it's bitter and it's poisonous. And you will not go unscathed. You will suffer from it somehow. But when it comes to the prostitute, and you would say, it knows in all situations. No, I've studied this topic in detail. Any verse you will bring up is that you think supports your argument is about the woman that belongs to another man. But when it comes to the prostitute, oh, you just squandered your wealth. Christ, the illustration he gave about the prodigal son, he went away and he squandered his wealth on prostitutes because the law permits it. But you would go broke if you go that route. That's one of the consequences that comes with it. It's not ideal. It's permissive, but it's not ideal. It's permissible, but it's not ideal. You see? So, yes, God permits it, and there are problems with this. The two women who came before Solomon, they had children off of prostitution. They were not put to death. The men who slept with them are not on trial. They're scot-free. It's fine because there's a loophole in it. It's not a sin. Otherwise, Solomon would not allow the prostitution to go on. First of all, it's Solomon, people. We're talking about King Solomon here. He knows the law like nobody else does. And at his time was a time of prosperity. Nobody was like, it said gold was as abundant, or silver was as abundant as stones in the street. It's a time of prosperity. So it makes you wonder why anyone would, prostitutes don't have any, that woman wouldn't have any man in her life. So yeah, exactly. So she would prostitute herself. So they're not sentenced to death. They're not punished. The only thing is that child belongs to you because you would rather give him to her than to have him. So that's the real mother. Give it. And then when all Israel heard this, they said, wow, what a great king we have. The wisdom of God is in him. Surely. But the wisdom of God being in him did not sentence them to death, those two prostitutes. And when those two prostitutes finished their judicial case, they went right back to their prostitution because they still have to take care of themselves. And that newborn, that woman, she has to take care of that newborn. Now, that newborn is a fatherless, and the woman is a widow. And the law says to take care of the fatherless and the widows. But when that is not done perfectly, so yes, at the time of Solomon, not everything was perfect. When that is not done perfectly, these things happen. And since the law permits it, men are going to take advantage. Now, each man that participates in that, would you call that a spiritual man? Not necessarily. You understand? Me knowing that God permitted prostitution, if I was any other person, what would I do? What? God permits prostitution? Say less. You start taking advantage. You know what I'm saying? So it's not so much that because it's permissible that everyone is going to do it. No, some men in their righteousness will not do it. You understand? Some will. There is no judiciary actions against it, but the problems can come within itself, within that action, especially today. Unwanted pregnancy, diseases, you know what I'm saying? You can fall in love with a prostitute, which would be a stupid thing, but it happens. You know what I'm saying? You try to wife her up there are loopholes, and these loopholes, people will take advantage of it. But again, we're not saying it is ideal or that you should go and do it. All I'm saying is that, listen, it was not a sin, and you can't prove that it was. You can't prove that it was. I've studied these things. I did my due diligence before I posted it, so I know all the arguments that can possibly be brought up against it, and they will not stand up. They will not stand in court. Solomon will prove you wrong. He dealt with these cases. He will prove you wrong. So I don't know if there's something else I want to add. I don't know if I addressed this well enough, but because of the fact that it was a manly based society, women who were without a man in their life would succumb to this. So it's like God, he knows that men, he knows how he's made men, and that men love women, obviously. And so he's not saying you can't, again, the reason why he doesn't say you must be married before you have sex. No. Okay, you had sex. Well, if she was a virgin, you would have to marry her. If the father doesn't want to give her to you, okay, you just pay the bride price and you go scot-free. No death penalty. You basically treated that woman as a prostitute. You understand that? But there's no penalty. So is God saying that that's a good thing? No. He's not saying it's a good thing. It's just saying there's no bloodshed needed because you slept with a woman. No, she doesn't belong to any man, so you didn't steal from your fellow man, so there's no death penalty. You understand? She didn't steal from her husband, from her father, and she didn't steal from her husband either. She didn't cheat on her husband, there's no death penalty. So again, I've addressed all these things in my videos before, so you just look into that. But if there's any other questions, anybody else, feel free to ask. So I feel like I am forgetting something. Something else I feel I should add. This would help you to really, I believe, understand something about God. One, our mentality is not God's mentality. Our mentality is not God's mentality. Some people feel shy or feel some type of way when they see animals mating in the street. They feel, I don't want my kids to see that. Some people shy away from those things. God has made them to do it publicly. Some people don't want to talk about some of the laws in the Bible because they are a bit graphic. They don't want to talk about that in front of kids. God wanted those laws to be read to all of Israel. No child was too young to hear the graphic details about the law, rape and all these things. Everyone had to hear it. Our mind is not God's mind. You see how you would say you can't fathom God permitting prostitution. Well, up until maybe many people discovered my channel, well, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who knows this, but until they saw my videos where I prove that premarital sex is not a sin, up until that time, they probably couldn't fathom that God would permit sex before marriage. But once you come to see that it's not a sin, it becomes one of those things where it's like, wow, why did I think it was such a sin before? You understand? Another one to prove that our mentality is not God's mentality. God permitted polygamy. You have David with multiple wives, multiple concubines. Do you know what goes on in David's bedroom with his wives? Now, modern Christians will think that's unchristian, ungodly. Says who? Well, because your culture is not privy to that. So, if I had 3 women in my room who belong to me, okay, and women, don't get angry because I say they belong to me. Come on, people, we're not kids here. You know what I'm saying. And they're naked in my room, and I'm having pleasure in them, and I'm doing my thing. You would say that's unchristian. According to who? Because your society and your culture has emasculated men and has basically castrated men so that men are no longer really men. Even when a man grows a beard, it's frowned upon. That culture, understand, God's mentality is not man's mentality. So if God is permitting something, the question shouldn't be, why would God permit it? Well, why would God permit polygamy? You do know that not all the wives of David were okay with that situation. You have to understand that it wasn't necessarily fair for the woman. So when you say, why would God permit a man to go and sleep with a woman and then leave, and then another man, and then this prostitution, why would God permit it? Well, why would God permit polygamy? Why would God permit polygamy? Why would he permit the man to have that many women when undoubtedly some of the women would not be okay with it? You don't think God knows that? And you would say that's a wicked thing, right? You would say that's a wicked thing, but it's not a wicked thing. That is not wickedness. A father prostituting his daughter is wickedness. A man taking a woman along with her sister as a rivalry is wickedness. A man sleeping with a woman and her daughter, that's wickedness. Polygamy, that's not wickedness. You understand? Now, when it comes to prostitution, if the land becomes full of prostitution as a result of fathers prostituting their daughters, or even if it's not as a result of that, but it's just the land is filled with prostitution, okay, permitting it doesn't mean let it go rampant. Permitting you to eat food doesn't mean become a glutton. Permitting you to drink alcohol doesn't mean become a drunkard, right? Permitting you to have multiple wives doesn't mean go crazy with it. You understand? Permissiveness does not give room to go all out. There's, again, when you understand the context of law, certain things don't have to be stated, but you can still get the idea that, okay, it's being permitted, but be careful, So I felt that was also necessary to add to the video. Clearly, when I said I feel like I'm forgetting something, I obviously was, because now I'm going to add something else also. Good thing for editing, right? Is it God who is saying, let there be prostitution? Or is he permitting it? And when he's permitting it, is he permitting a man forcing a woman into prostitution? Or when we say God is permitting prostitution, he's permitting a woman to prostitute herself. The woman is choosing to be a prostitute. Know the difference. The woman is choosing from her own free will. Sure, the circumstances is forcing her to do it, but surely there should be some other means to provide for your family. But bottom line is, she is choosing to prostitute herself. No one is putting a gun to her head that do this. When a father prostitutes his daughter, he's forcing her, in a sense. That pressure, not peer pressure, but fatherly pressure. No, and a woman can prostitute herself if she's not living in her father's house. She doesn't have brothers to take care of her. She's a widow. She's choosing to be a prostitute. And why is this not as bad? Because if she's choosing, see that you get this point. Sex is not a sin. When two flies are mating, there's nothing sinful about that. It's a natural act. When animals mate, there's nothing sinful about it. It's a natural act. You're just carrying out a desire to fulfill a certain purpose for which you were made to fulfill. Now, when does it become a problem? When you take what belongs to your fellow man, his wife, when she takes what belongs to her husband, because he's her husband, when she takes what belongs to her father, the money that the father is supposed to get because somebody wants his daughter, so they pay the bride price. When she loses her virginity, she's stolen from her father. She's stolen that bride price from her father. But outside, if she's committing prostitution in connection with an idol, this is fornication. You're stealing from God. Worship that belongs to God. Now you're cheating on God. Not when you sleep with a woman. No, you're cheating on God when you sleep with a woman in connection with an idol. Idolatry. Fornication. Fornication is idolatry with sex involved. That is when you cheat against God. You see, again, I addressed this in other videos. Outside of any of these things, and of course, outside of the written laws against sexual immorality, which is written out in the Old Testament, outside of those things, prostitution, as long as it's not cult, temple, kadesh, holy, right, temple prostitution, it does not fall under any of the things punishable by death or that requires a blood sacrifice. Nowhere. There's no blood sacrifice needed for an act of sex. They would just be, both the man and the woman will be unclean until the evening. They will wash themselves and they will remain unclean until the evening. That's what the Old Testament says. That's why in 2 Timothy 2, verse 22, very easy to remember, or verse 2, Paul speaks about flee from youthful desires, right? Flee from youthful desires. Flee from youthful desires and pursue things like love, peace, things that upbuild. What are youthful desires? The original word used by Paul denotes sexual desires. Things incidental to youth. Another translation puts it, incidental to youth. The desires incidental to youth. The passions of the flesh. And the context is that it's not bad, but he later on goes to say, in a house, there are different vessels for different uses. Gold, silver is for one particular use. Wood and stone and things like that are for another use. If you want to be useful for the more pure things, then pursue the more pure things. If you want to be used for something that is like useless, well then when you pursue the useless things, such as the desires of incidental to youth, youthful desires, then you would not be as useful to the Lord. You would not be as useful to God to do things pertaining to spirituality. The context when you study that chapter, 2 Timothy, it's not denouncing the desires. It's just saying that, first of all, it is not a loving thing to do to sleep around. You see, and you're not building people up spiritually when you do these things. He's not condemning it, but he's letting you know that is not a pure thing. You will be impure. You will be unclean until the evening. You are doing unclean things. Sure, you'll be unclean until the evening once you wash yourself. But he's encouraging you to do things that will be more presentable. So if you slept with 3 women and you're sticking to those 3 women don't belong to anybody, and even today, living in their father's house, that stipulation would not apply because the bride price is not going to go to the father. It's not the same system anymore. So she won't be stealing from her father if she loses her virginity. There's no the bride price not going to her. You understand? So that system does not apply today. And you would say, well, Paul said, do not, because of the increase in sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife and each woman have her own husband. What Paul is saying is first of all, he concedes that it is his opinion. That's what he recommends. He also recommends that you don't marry at all. But he's conceding. Why? Because the context is that men, see, you have to know what was going on in Corinth at this time. All the prostitutes were associated with idols. In Deuteronomy, I believe it is, God strictly prohibits idol prostitution, cult prostitution, temple prostitution, kadesh prostitution. They are all the same things. That's why when Israel sinned with the Moabite women, God was not angry at them for the fact that they slept with the Moabite women. He was angry that they joined themselves with Baal by sacrificing to their gods, eating food sacrificed to idols, and bowing down to their gods. That was what God was angry at. In the very next verse, he tells you why he was angry. Because they have joined themselves with Baal. But if the men were not doing anything in connection to Baal, which is sexual idolatry, that's fornication. If they weren't doing that, then they wouldn't be fornicators. They would just be sleeping with Midianite women, which is not a sin. You understand? Like, again, I addressed this in other videos. So that's why Paul said, don't you know that you are joined together with Christ? So it is not fitting for you to go and sleep with temple prostitutes. He's not talking about regular prostitution, because your union with God and Christ is not through sex. So the bond will not be broken through sex. Your union with God and Christ is through worship, spirituality. So it'll be broken through spirituality. So when you go and you sleep with a prostitute and she's in connection with an idol, which was what was going on rampantly in Corinth, then you are breaking the law in Deuteronomy, where God says you must not sleep with temple prostitutes. This is what Paul is talking about. So do not join yourself with these idols by sleeping with the women. Sure, your intention is not to join yourself with the idols, but the fact that she's associated with an idol, you're already fornicating. God didn't say if you sleep with a temple prostitute in your ignorance, you won't be sinning. No, you will still be sinning, because that is the sin. That's fornication. So Paul is saying, because all the prostitution that's there is temple prostitution, which is strictly prohibited in the Old Testament. And why would God prohibit temple prostitution but not prohibit regular prostitution? Why would he say no daughter or son of Israel may become a temple prostitute? And he leaves it at that, insinuating that you can be a prostitute, just don't be a temple prostitute. Just don't be a prostitute in association with an idol. So since this is all that's there in Corinth, when you have your youthful desires and the desires incidental to youth, especially men, you want to sleep with a woman, but you're not trying to get married. It's just desires incidental to youth. So you're going to go and sleep with prostitutes. The problem is that all the prostitutes are in affiliation with idols, specifically the goddess Aphrodite, the false pagan goddess Aphrodite. Let me emphasize that. Again, this is history, this is historical facts. So Paul is saying, because this is the only option you have, and even if it wasn't the only option you have, still it is better to marry than to be inflamed with passion. That's what Paul is talking about. So he's saying, again, I address all of these things, but I don't want to make the video too long. I always end up making the video too long and people won't watch it. Because of the sexual immorality is listed verbatim in the Old Testament, none of which includes prostitution, but it does include temple prostitution. Okay? And so when he says, because of the increase in sexual immorality and temple prostitution, because of that, it is better to each one to have their own. Because if you don't have your own mate, then what are you going to do? You're going to sleep around. You won't be a useful vessel to God if that's what you are doing, if that's what you're dedicating your youth to. And it's better to serve God in your youth when you have your vigor and vitality. He's saying it is better to marry than to be inflamed with passion and go out and possibly be tempted to sleep with temple prostitutes. If you see with a regular prostitute, it's fine. But the problem is, there are no regular prostitutes in Corinth. And his letter was to the Corinthians. You understand? So if I wanted to satisfy myself I would go and sleep with a prostitute. The problem is that she's going to 9 times out of 10 be affiliated with the pagan goddess Aphrodite. This is fornication. Paul is saying, Sam, it is better for you to get married. You understand? It is better for you to have your own wife. And if you're a woman, it's better for you to have your own husband than to be inflamed with passion and be tempted to do these things. But if you do these things and they're not with prostitutes, just regular girl that you went to school with and you sleep with her, that's not a sin. It's not. Sorry to break it to you. It's not a sin. Okay. I used to think that. So he's saying, okay, that's fine. But understand too that if this is what you are pursuing, you won't be useful to the Lord. You will just be like a wooden vessel in the house as opposed to a gold and silver vessel in the house. But if you do these things and they're not with prostitutes, just regular girl that you went to school with and you sleep with her, that's not a sin. It's not. Sorry to break it to you. It's not a sin. Okay. I used to think that. So he's saying, okay, that's fine. But understand too that if this is what you are pursuing, you won't be useful to the Lord. You will just be like a wooden vessel in the house as opposed to a gold and silver vessel in the house. Like I can break all these things down, but I just don't want to make the video too long. Again, 2 flies, male and female fly, having relations, it's not sinful. Okay? And we would be unclean because of the stain of imperfection. Other than that, it would not be an unclean act. But it is unclean because of imperfection. But you wash with water and you're clean. You will be unclean until the evening, when the sun sets. So when the woman chooses, if she has no husbandly owner, she's not living in her father's house, she's not the daughter of a priest, okay, she can sleep with whomever she chooses. This is why Christ did not condemn the woman at the well who had been with several husbands prior, or several men prior, but the man she was living with currently was not her husband. Christ did not condemn her. He didn't say, go and sin no more, like he's told the adulterous woman caught in the act of adultery. That woman, according to Mosaic law, there's nothing, Christ cannot judge her. You understand? Because there's no Mosaic law in it to judge her according to the Mosaic law. You understand? He read the passage again. There's no insinuation that what she was doing was wrong. All he did was acknowledge the fact that, yeah, she's been with previous men before and the one she's with now is not her husband. Okay, let's keep talking. What, because she might be having sex with the man, that's a problem? Well, she could be his concubine for all we know. That's not a sin. If a man only has a concubine and it's not his wife, well, where's the problem? You understand? So if the woman is choosing to be the prostitute and no one is forcing her to do it, if someone is forcing her to do it, it's a problem. And that's insinuated by, you should not prostitute your daughters. You should not force women to be prostitutes. But if a woman is by herself, has no one to provide for her, and she chooses to be a prostitute, whether the situation is forcing her to become one or whatever, it is still by her own free choice to become a prostitute. So it's not so much that why would God permit prostitution as if he's permitting the forcing of women into prostitution. No, that's different. Like you see with sex slaves and things like that. That's not what he's permitting. He's permitting a woman to choose to be a prostitute if she wants to go that route, since the routes for financial provisions are limited. Okay, let's not make this video too long. All right, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna have anything else to add, or I might, but peace.